And we're going to start off with the young lady at the end here. And what is your name? Yeah, just speaking.
My name is Amelia Hansen.
Amelia Hansen. And you're how old?
I'm 11 years old.
No, seriously, how old are you?
11.
11, okay, wow. Very accomplished young lady for 11. And I understand you're a writer.
Yes.
And what kinds of things do you write?
So I write fiction books about a cat named Katrina who travels the world and helps other animals.
Whoa, that sounds really good. Yeah. How do you get your ideas?
So mostly from a globe because I love geography. I just spin the globe and wherever my finger lands most of the time, that's where I choose to make Katrina go. I also come up with names for my characters from the globe.
Wow, that's pretty creative.
Thank you.
That's very good. And how many books have you done so far?
I've written 9 books, plus another book about my trip to Norway and Iceland last year.
Okay. So she's got 9 books and another about her trip to Norway and Iceland. Last year was?
Yes.
Okay, wow. And then do you have plans for more? Do you know where this goes?
I do have plans for more, and I'm working on my 10th book now about where she goes to Japan. I don't have an idea for book 11 yet, but I am almost halfway done with book 12, which I'm going to read a part of today.
Okay, wow. This is impressive. Well, we're really glad you stopped by today. And let me talk to the young lady next to you, Rebekah Koontz. Rebekah is a member of our club. And are you in college right now? No. No, okay. See, I don't know that much about you. I said, well, don't worry about it. We'll find out during the interview, right? So tell us what you're working on. And when did you start writing, first of all?
I started writing as soon as I could write. I didn't necessarily know how to...
Hold it up to your
Can you hear
mouth.
me? Hello?
That's better.
I started writing as soon as I could write. I didn't necessarily know how to spell, but I would sound it out as best I could.
A lot of writers don't. Don't worry about it. That's why they invented spell check, right? Okay, so you started writing as just a young girl, right? Okay. And what did you base what you wanted to write on? What was that about?
I usually just ask the question, what if? Either what if the best thing happened, or what if the worst thing happened? And I found for my writing right now, the worst things are sometimes the most fun things to write about.
Okay. Well, that means you're turning lemons into lemonade, I guess, in your life. That's good. And so, didn't you receive some award when you were in a writing class in college?
Yes. There was at BBC, I think it was a fiction short story contest, and I wrote this romance short story, and it got first prize.
All
Yeah,
right, way
in
to go.
college.
Way to go, very exciting. And so what do you plan to do with your writing as time goes on? Do you plan to continue to write?
Definitely. I just finished my debut novel. Now it's going to be edited. And in the meantime, I'm working on my blog and YouTube channel so that I can create that base following so that when the book is published, I have that to go on.
Great. So you're like automatically on the internet already.
Yes.
You're right out there. Well, excellent. We're going to get back to you and have you read something that you've written. And Amy, let me go to you at this time. And by the way, the theme, as we've named it, is never too young, never too old. And if this doesn't demonstrate that, I don't know what could. I asked Amy if she would mind if I asked her age. I've learned never to ask a woman her age, But for the purpose of our workshop or seminar today, it would be inspirational, and Amy had no trouble with that. And so how old are you, Amy?
96.
96 years old. 96. And Amy, what do you like to write about?
I write short stories. Some are fiction, a lot of them are taken from my own life.
Own experiences? Okay.
Fictionalized, of course.
Pardon?
Greatly fictionalized.
Right, yeah. You have to protect the innocent, right, in the stories.
I don't blame the others, yes.
Blame the other ones? Yes, okay. And what's your source of inspiration? Is it mainly your own experiences and you think about them and develop them?
Yes, although some of them are completely new, not from experiences at all.
Okay.
I don't know, they just kind of arrive in my head.
Uh-huh. Okay. What do you say to somebody who says they don't have any time to write?
I say, how can you be a writer if you don't write?
Well, it's I guess a thought in somebody's head. They wish they could or they want to, but a lot of people feel like they don't have time. And would you say you have to make the time and just schedule?
You do, and I often don't. So
Yeah, well, we all can say that. So, and you're going to read a portion of something that you've written for us
Yes,
in a little bit? Okay. All right. And then we come to June Langer. And June is the mother of Mary Thompson, who made a couple of announcements for us. I don't know why I do this, but when I'm going to call June for something, I always call Mary first. It's like Mary is the gateway for me to talk to June. I just feel better that way, you know. Hey, I'm going to call your mom. Is that okay?
I think it's because a lot of people think old people don't know what they're talking about.
Well, that settles that. We know that's not the case here. That is definitely not the case here. So, June, what do you like to write?
I'm doing my memoirs.
Hold it up to your mouth.
Okay, I'm doing my memoirs.
Closer.
My memoirs. Right now, I'm still in my early childhood. Okay. I'm still in my early childhood. And I used to think that it was very dull. So every now and then I'd tell somebody a story about what we did or how we had company from way back east. Because we didn't have any relatives in Chicago where I lived, so they'd come visit us from Pennsylvania. And they'd say, well, you've got to write that down. And so I said, well, okay, I'll write it down. And they liked it. So I wrote about the World's Fair. I wrote about how we got our first refrigerator, because I was born before refrigeration, before slice of bread, before TV, and before those little things that you know, all my kids are walking around with those little things in their hands. We had to have our own entertainment. So we went roller skating. We played jacks. We did all that sort of thing. So that's what I'm writing about right now.
And let's, anybody, well, no, I'm not going to have anybody guess her age, but these two are the same age, 96, each of them. And I don't think you could find two more articulate ladies that are 96 or any age for that matter, and we really appreciate having these two as members. Now, what about you as far as time? Do you have a regular time that you write?
No, I don't. What I do is walk around the house and think about the first sentence. If I have something that I want to write about, I have to have a first sentence before I can go on. So I walk around and I think, I talk to myself, and maybe a couple of months later or a couple of weeks I have a sentence. But we have a deadline because we go to a critique group, she and I, and we need a deadline. So every once in a month I do get something done.
I'll bet you do. Do you find it's valuable to be part of this writers club as a writer?
Yes, I certainly do. First of all, I just love coming here because everybody's so wonderful. They're also sweet and encouraging, and nobody ever says you stink. They always say, my, that's nice, it's good. In the critique group, sometimes we will consider a little bit of improvement. And Jan, our facilitator, helps me a lot with my commas. I always forget where to put those. And the critique group is one of the best things because that's where you learn the most. I like the meetings, I like the people. It's just wonderful to be here. And every time I come, whether they're talking about publishing or something that I'm not a bit interested in, like TV writing, I learned something anyway, even if I'm not going to use it right now. It's in there for later.
Thank you so much, Jude. And so Amy told me that June and Amy are 4 months apart in age, both 96, but 4 months apart. So
It sneaked up on us. I didn't think it was going to.
she says it sneaks up on us. I'm going to come back to Amelia, and Amelia, let's maybe this would work better if you can you hold this and deal with that too?
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to let you hold. Now you have to kind of talk into the top of it like this, okay? Then you don't have to talk too loud. Okay.
So I'm going to read a part or like 2 paragraphs of my 12th book, Katrina and the Long Lost Legend. So I've already started working on this, and I just wanted to get it down so I have an idea and so I can finish it when I'm done with my other books. So I'll begin. So one day, Katrina was looking in her world atlas. She had just finished the Greenland chapter and turned to the page that was Iceland. She read and she noticed something that she hadn't seen in all the hundreds of times that she looked through her atlas. Page 122 skipped to page 125. It appeared 2 pages were stuck together. She peeled the pages apart, and to her amazement, there was a folded paper between the pages. Katrina unfolded the paper and saw that it was a note to her. It said, "Katrina, this is Sven, your father. If you are reading this, it means something has happened to me and I need your help. I have left you this atlas that has been in our family for over 1,000 years. This is not just any ordinary atlas. It has powers if you didn't already know. It came from our Viking ancestors. It was the thing that allowed them to travel all over the world. It was supposed to have been a gift from them from the Viking goddess Akka. She was the goddess of nature and sky. Your mother may have told you I was a simple geographer for the Svalbard Geographic Society. I am a geographer and I do work for the Svalbard Geographic Society, but since I was 9 years old, I have also been using this atlas to help other cats across the world, which is the name of my first book. When you were 2, I left and told your mother that I would be going on an expedition to the North Pole to map out the uncharted territories in that region. Actually, what I was doing was searching for the fabled city of Polaris. Legend says that there's a magical book there that allows its owner to travel through time. In my research on our family's atlas, I found out that there was a sister book that was given to the Vikings. It was lost in a great battle between the Viking cats and the northern bears 800 years ago. I suspect that book of Polaris is that book. By the way, the northern bears are not just any bears. In my research, the royal family of Polaris have the sister book to the atlas, and they don't even know how to use it, which is a good thing. I'm going to Polaris to retrieve the sister book. If the queen uses it before me, then she could travel to the future or the past and change a lot of things. The queen's name is Astaria, and she has 2 daughters, Nida and Lorea. Please come and find me. There is a very secret way to get to Polaris, but I will leave clues, and you can find the secret door of the Aurora Borealis. Love, Dan.
Wow, that is wonderful. That's great writing, and you use your imagination. You kind of use the globe to get started, and then you let your imagination go with it, huh? Yeah, there's probably a lot of stories still in there, huh? All right, let's go to Rebekah. And Rebekah, maybe this is can you handle it too?
I'll try. Okay, this is from my humor and lifestyle blog, RebekahKoontz.com, and unfortunately, it is a true story. It's entitled, "My Phone Was Stolen, and You'd Never Guess Who Did It." It was a regular Sunday afternoon. I was in church.
Church, mind you, church. God's house. It was after choir practice and I was helping put music away. I had my precious, immaculate, white, brand new iPhone XR in my hand. I placed it on a bench along with my music folder and turned away briefly to kneel down and grab a stack of music off the floor. When I turned back, it was gone. I tried not to panic. I thought maybe I'm mistaken and walked to my seat in the choir loft. I bent and peered under the chair. Empty. I went backstage. My phone wasn't on the piano, wasn't in my cubby, wasn't on the shelf. Bryce was still out front collecting music. I grabbed him by the arm and lowered my voice to tell him the news. Immediately, he looked out at the congregation. Keep watch. He reached into the breast pocket of his blazer. I'm gonna call it. See if anyone pulls it out. He called and I watched. It rang and I watched. Nothing. There was a cluster of young, fidgety eyes hunched over something in a pew. Check on those girls, I told Bryce. They're hiding something. I'm gonna search the back. We broke our huddle and my heart pounded in my ears. My phone was missing, but so was my music folder. I grasped onto the idea of the music folder with all my might. Find the folder, you find your phone. The folder was something seemingly dull and unimportant, something I could recognize by the white scratches at the corner, something a thief wouldn't think would sell them out, but I knew better. I went cubby by cubby, yanking out folders, nothing. There was a discard box kept in the corner for music, and I dumped it. With a sinking heart, I watched as my folder, the one with the white scratches at the corner, came toppling out. Panic washed over me. Someone had pocketed the phone and discarded my folder in this bin. My phone wasn't just missing, this confirmed it. My phone was stolen. I had to find the phone before it left the premises. I went searching for Bryce. I found Bryce standing awkwardly, 2 pews behind those same girls. I said check on them, not hover, I hissed. They're definitely hiding something. Smiling, I approached the girls, hands clasped peaceably, and asked their guardians if they'd seen the phone, as mine had sadly gone missing, when Bryce launched his arm into their pew and began searching the hymnals. Shocked eyes turned to me for answers. Trying to disguise what Bryce was doing, I awkwardly began picking around their general area, lifting a sweater or two, and got the heck out of there as soon as he was finished. We met at the back of the church. I didn't find anything. He blew out his cheeks. By this time, my mother and my brother were in on the hunt. Bryce checked his Find My Friends. The phone was still located at church. It hadn't left. I went to the church office and let them know my phone was missing. Soon, the place was buzzing with the news, and I was out for blood. I met up with Bryce again, and I told him we were leaving. I had a plan. I was gonna go home and grab my laptop and my Apple Watch. I could keep an eye on the phone's location from my laptop, and I could ping the phone with my watch. In the meantime, I told my brother to keep calling that phone. We're going to annoy whoever has it into giving it back. With determination and murder in my eyes, Bryce and I power walked our way out of the sanctuary, only to be stopped by Pastor. Rebekah, are you looking for something? He asked. The slow and pleasant tone of his voice threatened my gracious composure to crack. My teeth were clenched. Yes, my phone. He gestured for us to follow him, and he walked down the aisle to the left and straight to his wife's yellow purse on the front pew. In one smooth motion, he produced my beautiful iPhone. My mom's name appeared on the screen and I answered it. Ma, hi, I found it. I looked up at him. It was Pastor's wife who took it. We confronted her after service and she apologized immensely. She said she thought it was her phone and tossed it in her bag to get it out of the way. But we're not too sure of this whole thing. Bryce said it best. It would have been the perfect crime, and she would have gotten away with it too, if it weren't for those meddling kids and that dumb dog.
Yeah, you don't separate a young person from their cell phone. Amy, are you ready?
Yes, I am.
I'm going to give you this one also. Just hold it in front of your mouth.
I ran across an item a while back about sweet romances. It was described as romances where the characters keep their clothes on. I decided to try to give it a try. Here are a couple of pages from the short story Snowfall. Carrie is the guy, Stevie is the girl.
Can you hear okay in the back? Okay.
Carrie has come to his family's cabin in the Sierras in a snowstorm, but he's forgotten to tell his rental agent that he'll be using the cabin. So about 1 a.m., Stevie shows up. The storm has intensified, the electricity is out. Carrie and Stevie are stuck with each other until the snowplow comes. This is on the night of day 2. Carrie's in the bedroom. Stevie is on the sleeper couch in the living room. Carrie sat up, rolled up the blanket, and stepped out of bed. He padded cautiously into the dark living room. Stevie, move over. He shook her shoulder. Go on, move over a bit. Carrie, what? She rolled over close to the other side and raised up on an elbow. What are you doing? He lifted her covers and dropped the roll blanket next to her. He slid into the opposite side and pulled the covers over both of them. There, he said, bundling, an old American custom bundle. All perfectly proper. He added in a plaintive voice, I was lonely. She giggled as she turned to face him, though it was too dark for eye contact. Who'd have thought you were a student of American history? Actually, bundling came up recently in a conversation with my Spanish friends, he said. When I explained it to them, they call it una idea buena, and said they would try to establish it in Spain. She giggled again. So, did you demonstrate? Unfortunately, I never got the chance. He moved closer to the barrier between them. What do you suppose couples talked about back in those days? As I remember my history, the couple was, what's the word? Oh yes, they were betrothed. They were engaged to marry, so they surely talked about their future together. Okay, what's your future? Oh, the usual. I'll stay with teaching, earn tenure, travel in the summer. Do you recommend Spain? Definitely. I'll introduce you to some nice families there. I also spent considerable time in Italy, just running over with art, paintings, statuary, and especially unbelievable buildings, and all the Roman ruins too. But then, you're not an art major. There's a lot of science history in Italy too, she said. Galileo, Da Vinci, and others. And I'd like to spend some time in Greece, maybe do a year's exchange with the school. There's so much to experience. So much history to actually see. I could do a lifetime just traveling from place to place, immersing myself in what used to be, probably through museums and old cathedrals. I'd take 1 million photos, maybe become a travel writer, and hope to earn enough to pay for it. I could even... She became aware of a soft snuffling on the opposite side of the barrier. She raised up on her elbow and lay closer. Carrie? Carrie? The snuffling continued. Jet lag had caught up with Carrie. She chuckled quietly, then reached across the rolled blanket and poked him in what, in the dark, she hoped was his ribs. Carrie? Huh? Carrie, take your blanket and go back to your own bed. Not so soon. You haven't told me your life history yet. What's to tell? It was an uneventful childhood. I marvel when I hear what some of my students have done, from overseas travel to juvie. Some actually volunteer with citrus groups. Not me. I was surfing any spare time I had. In the darkness, his fingers found her shoulder. She shrugged it away. Bundling, remember? You stay on your side. Do you think those long-ago bundlers really always followed the rules? She snickered. Probably not. No more than modern teenagers. My grandparents still had back seats at the drive-in movie or unfrequented country lanes. He found her ear and with his finger traced its curves. She grabbed his wrist and firmly placed his hand and arm on his side of the roll blanket. Go back to your own bed, Carrie. Go now. He slid out, took his blanket and moved away. In the darkness, stumbling against the chair with a soft dab. As he entered his door, he heard her say, "Sweet dreams."
Very witty, very clever. Thank you. And are you all set now? June? Ready?
This is called musing, and it's very short. Many times, little things or occurrences remind me of something in their childhood that reminds me of something similar. My husband did not indulge in sweets very often, but he liked pastry. Every now and then, while we were out shopping, we would treat ourselves to a sweet roll or two. And while we were enjoying them, he reminisced about his mother's baking. On baking day, the neighbors all came over for a coffee clutch. Everyone agreed she was the best baker in the community. Recently, I finished a package of Newton's fig. They are soft cookies shaped like bars with a fig mixture. They are produced by Nabisco, made in Mexico, and remind me of the fig bars we had when I was a child and what I was told of their history. In the mid-30s, there was a small town in Illinois, a suburb of Chicago called Zion. We often passed through it on our way to some other place. No stop sign there. The little town had a cookie factory that made Zion Fig Newtons. We called them Fig Newts, and my mother bought them often. It was said of this little town that it belonged to a cult that believed that the world was flat. Only the people who lived in that town could work in their factory, and a tithe was deducted from their salary, whether they approved or not. If they didn't like it, they could work somewhere else. Every time I have some Fig Newtons, I think of that little town. I wonder if it still exists, and if they still believe the world is flat. When and why did they sell the cookie factory to Nabisco? Maybe all the people have become computer experts now. Sometime soon, I will have to Google and find out.
Well, I can testify that Fig Newtons still exist, that's for sure, right? Yeah, I haven't thought of those.
They have Fig Apple and Fig Cherry and Fig Apple and Fig Other, but the Fig Newtons are the ones.
Yeah, times are constantly changing, right? So we're going to break up our schedule a little bit today, and I want to open up for Q&A right now for any of our writers. What would you like to ask them? Rusty.
The process. I am addicted to a pen on newsprint or the computer. But if I had my choice, I would be writing on newsprint with a pen. What's your choice, each of you?
Computer.
Hold on.
Computer, because I can research different things and add them to my books. So it's a little bit more like convenient and it's easier to write.
What is newsprint? I have all Apple products because I can write anything on the phone, on the iPad, on the computer, and I can access it from anywhere. So to me, that is the key because I'm always out and about and I don't know what I'm going to have, and I always lose pens, and so I just make sure that I have something electronic.
Can I ask you a question? I have to ask you this question. Aren't you worried about the toner cartridge companies that are going out of business while you're in electronics? No, you don't worry about it. Amy, do you have an answer for this?
I think the computer was one of the greatest inventions ever. I can read it. I can barely read my own writing anymore. I also started writing in the age of cut and paste. And I'll tell you, being able to make a correction on a computer is a whole lot easier.
Do you have an answer?
What's the question?
The question is about the process of how you write. How do you
Well, since I moved up to Sun City, my son-in-law has bought me a computer. So I sit down on the computer and I compose just as if I were writing with a pen or pencil. But I love the computer because I can, delete whatever mistakes I make, and I can read it back when I'm finished.
Right, yeah. That's a definite advantage.
Yes.
Another question?
He was first, go ahead.
All right, Bob.
Question especially for Rebekah. How did you find out about our club?
The Apple Valley Library, I think. No, the Hesperia Library, there was a folder there, and it was back when, I believe, Carol is her name,
Okay,
was the president.
okay.
So
Thank you.
I've been coming for a few years.
And for, same question for Amy, I would imagine I know how June talked about.
How'd you find it, Bob?
I think I saw an ad in the paper when I first came here. I've only been here 3 years. And very shortly after I came, I found the writers group. And I was stuck. And here I am. I enjoy it.
How did you find it originally?
Mary brought me.
Obviously, I'm a daughter, exactly. Dr. Hansen.
Maybe starting from this end down, the probably age-old question is, how do you handle writer's block? When you going along and then all of a sudden it's like, it just won't come to you. Has that happened? And if so, how do you deal with that?
If I have a writer's block, I go do something else. Sometimes I go have a Fig Newton and then I
Well, it depends a lot on what you call writer's block. I don't usually have writer's block. Sometimes I have to stop and when I realize that this requires more research or more detail than I'm prepared to do right now. But ordinarily, it's all there. I tend to do a lot of writing in my head long before I start doing it on a computer.
That's a good question. When I get writer's block, I'm getting into my head about something. I'm focusing too much on one character or one situation, and I need to step out and start asking questions about other characters. Or I just discuss it with somebody else and kind of shoot ideas off of them and see where they come from. And they go, oh, well, why don't they do this? And that's it. That's all it takes to break the writer's block.
So what I usually do when I have writer's block, on my most recent book that I'm working on, Katrina and the Cherry Blossom Adventure, she's in Japan, and it took a while for me to get an idea because I didn't find anything very creative that I could come up with or get an idea from, because I haven't wrote any books where she's in Asia before, and I've never really done that much research or read anything much about Japan. And so usually I just take a break from my book and then I look on the globe and I try to think, what's a good landmark that she can go to? Where are some famous places? What can she do in those places? And how can she have a cool adventure that people will want to read?
That's a great answer. In fact, somebody said one time, the hardest thing about writing is knowing what to write. And that's essentially what Amelia just said. You got to sometimes go back and do the research, do your homework about geography or whatever it is, certain area. Very good answer. Did I see a hand over here? Yeah, Mary.
My question is, as you can see, there are not too many young people in our club. And so this question is aimed at the younger people on the panel. How would you recommend that we advertise our club to your age groups?
Well, first I would start to make sure that you are advertising to them because, like I said, I just found a brochure on a little wheelie cart and I wanted to come. The reason why I think a lot of us don't is because we're not as serious as we want to say we are. And that might just be the truth of it, that we just get distracted by other things. But then there's other people that we know what we want and we enjoy it and we truly want to grow. And so that might just be something that us as young people need to work on. But if you're getting it out there and you're saying, it's an inspiration, it's fun, it's a good outlet, then you're doing as much as you can do. And it just takes an open heart and that desire to...
What venues should we advertise on? Social media, newspapers, posters in schools?
Posters in school and social media. They're not going to look at newspapers.
I'd say to advertise to very specific sources like children's hospitals or playgrounds or daycares and stuff, so that kids everywhere that they go can be able to see it and like tell their parents about it or tell whoever's like watching them, like to advertise on social media, because most kids nowadays like me are always on there, and like flyers you put up like on the street if like your pet is missing, kind of like that. So.
Okay, all right, good ideas, thank you. Amy, you have.
Put your information in places where your students are, meaning in the school. Have something they can take home. And in big print, write food available.
Have anything?
I would say just tell your friends who have children and tell them how much fun it is to come here, all the things they learn, if they're interested in writing.
And like Amy said, there is free food available, which we're going to hit up in just a few minutes. Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
My question is, what's the most weird or uncommon place that you have thought of an idea in your writing? Say you're writing a piece and you get stuck, and then you're somewhere, and then you think of it, and then what do you do about it?
You mean, where are you when the idea comes to you?
Yes, what's the most weird or uncommon? Because it doesn't always come at the computer.
One of my favorite stories is a short story about a 6-year-old boy who finds out there's no Santa Claus, but he's convinced that his parents still believe in Santa Claus. And this came at 2 o'clock in the morning, and it was getting close to Christmas, and I said, I should write a Christmas story. And what if I turned it around backwards? And there it was.
For my blog, I was trying to think of something funny to write, and I didn't have anything. And I was actually in a bathroom stall, and I looked up at the toilet seat covers, and it said "provided for youth from the management." And I thought to myself, has anyone thanked the management? And from there, I came up with the blog post.
So usually I get inspiration because in our house we have like an office where the computer is and that's where the globe is. I usually just get inspiration from the globe, but sometimes like when I watch movies like outer space movies, or not movies, like TV shows that I've recorded like that show like a big picture of the world and people traveling, I get inspiration from that because that's where like cool places are that Katrina could go and like have an adventure. So.
June, you got anything? Where do you get your ideas? Where do things come to you?
Well, sometimes they come to me out of the clear blue sky, and I'm sitting somewhere, and I think, oh, I remember something in my childhood that reminds me of something in my childhood. So I try to keep it in my head until I get home.
Any other questions? Diane?
I have a problem. My problem is that I love to read. And in fact, there's a whole stack of books over there I brought to give away that I read. And because I'm always reading, I neglect my own writing. Now, I would like to know from all of you if you have that addiction, and if you do, how do you handle it?
Okay, let me get this back up here. Who's first?
It happens to me too. Well, that happens to me too because I like to read, I like to watch TV, and so sometimes I just haven't written at all. But go back to it the next day. Someday it's going to get done. And I'm not in any hurry. I don't have a deadline, so it doesn't matter.
Okay. All right, any other questions? Yes?
We're probably going to get
Molly?
to this, but I'd like to know each of the authors where their work's available.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
books are available on Amazon.com and BarnesandNoble.com, and they get printed by Lulu or Enneagram Print. But if you go over to my table, which is over there, there's some little pamphlets that I made. There's 75 copies, so there's enough for everyone, I'm hoping. But you can take one, and then I highlighted the link. It's at the bottom left corner of the page. It's where my author's profile or author's spotlight is on the specific website that I publish my books. So it shows a big list and a bio of me. So.
Wonderful. Thank you. Do you have anything out there?
How do you follow that? Real quick, I want to offer Diane some encouragement for that last question that you did ask. When I read and I really enjoy it, that motivates me to write something just as good. So that's what I would encourage you, that you're sitting there and you're like, I can't put this down. And to me, I want to write something that people can't put down. And so I just kind of, I veered away to that. But anyway, you can find my information at RebekahKoontz.com. That's my humor and lifestyle blog. And then I also have a YouTube channel from there that you can find the website for as well.
Unfortunately, I'm not a very good marketer, so there's not much out there in the printed form. Although I did appear in the anthology that the club put out last time. I also appeared in the anthology, The Saturday Evening Post Best Short Stories for 1915, which is available on Amazon. Actually, I want somebody to come up and take my hand and say, I'm here to help you publish. Hasn't happened. Not going to.
All right, we're going to invite our panel. First of all, let's give them a big round of applause. I think this was delightful, and I think I learned a lot, and hopefully you did as well. Thank you for taking the time to share with us. Just amazing. And the range is still startling me, from 11 to 96. That's quite a range for one panel. That's great.
Yeah.
So